Hello, Facebook Live. Lindsay Price here. I'm on a different device. We will see if how this works. It says my connection is weak, but I'm going to keep on going. And a different look, different background. Mixing it up here on a Wednesday night. Anyway, so we're going to talk about empathy tonight. I think that always, actually, empathy is an important thing to teach our students, to teach ourselves, to make that part of our the work that we do on ourselves as human beings. Maybe more than ever, that empathy might be the thing that we need to spend a lot of time on, maybe in the classroom and working with students. And so that's what I'm going to sort of share a couple of things that some exercises that you can take into the classroom. You'll find them in the links in the description. I'm going to talk about those. I'm going to talk about the habits of empathetic people who are empathetic people. Habits of people who are empathetic people. And that's going to be my thing. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. I'm in the tail end of a new play that focuses on empathy, on scenes that show students being completely the opposite of empathetic, not empathetic, and then also how throughout the course of the piece, what happens to some characters to find empathy inside of themselves. I think that we think that generally it is a generalization that students, high school students, middle school students, are not seen as empathetic, and they can't be empathetic. And I don't believe that is true, because that's a generalization. So what is empathy, right? Empathy is the different from sympathy, in that sympathy is that you feel sorry for somebody in their situation, and in empathy you try and understand the situation, right? The symbol or the metaphor is that you have to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, understand them. But there's lots of other ways in which empathy you can get empathy, you can teach empathy, and you can work on empathy in yourself. So the first thing I'm going to do, so we're talking about empathy. If you have exercises that you use to help to cultivate empathy in your students, put them in the comments. I've got 2 exercises from our blog that you can take into the classroom tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. Yes, you can take them into the classroom tomorrow and use them and use them to maybe generate some conversation about why more than ever, why today, why 2017 is the year where teaching empathy in the classroom might be the most important thing you do, and particularly in the drama classroom, because there's just a lot of that you can talk about, from having empathy for characters who are different from us. I'm having a lot of conversations with teachers and with students where they have there's a play and students are coming back and they're like, well, we can't do this play because I would never do what this character does. The students are uncomfortable with the language that the character uses, and it's like, well, you're not the character. The character is the character. And there's a reason why the character talks the way that they do. I get really antsy when the question comes up that we can't say those words, and we've identified that those words are bad, meaning that character is bad. And that's not true. And so this is something I think that it's been on my mind a lot. Something that I can talk about for 15 minutes? You betcha. Okay, so what are the habits of empathetic people, and how can we put that into the drama classroom? 1, empathetic people are curious about strangers, meaning they're curious about maybe other cultures, people who are different than them. right? That if you are an empathetic person, you are going to seek to understand. You're going to seek to understand that someone who's different than you, instead of just deciding that a difference is unacceptable, right? Barbara, I would teach through pantomime and reaction to a situation. Absolutely. So start off with tableau, right? Here is your habit. It's cultivating curiosity in strangers. So create a tableau in which we have characters who are dealing with somebody who is different than them. What are the reactions? How can we show empathy in a tableau to somebody who is different than we are? How can we use it in improv? Have two people who are from completely different universes, from completely different situations, from two completely different paths, and they can only complete a task if they work together, right? They have to work together to complete a task. They have to, find out something about the other person. So cultivating a curiosity with strangers. Curiosity expands empathy. Talking to people outside our world, right? I think something that's happening very much so right now is we're finding out people perhaps on Facebook who have completely differing opinions than we do. And how are those conversations going for you? For some of the people that I'm observing, they're going okay, and that people who are from different sides can still have grown-up conversations, and some people are not. And the more that we are moving away from even having those interactions from people who differ from us, sometimes you just can't. Maybe you can't even have those conversations. But then we're losing touch with people who aren't like us, getting in a bit of a bubble. And I think a bubble is a big thing that's going to stop empathy. Okay, so empathy, curiosity. We want curiosity. Habit number 2, challenging prejudices. Oh, good word, Lindsay. Prejudices and discover commonalities. So when we get to find these people who are different than us, people who are not in the same sphere as us, getting that curiosity. What is the next step to that? Well, what are our commonalities? Big one is that we're all pretty human, right? That we all have families. We all have feelings about those families. The most fascinating thing to me, I went to Japan 4 years ago, and having a preconceived notion about what my interactions would be like with Japanese people, never having very much interaction with them, and being wonderfully delighted to find out that my preconceived notions were dead wrong. That not only were they were incredibly kind, incredibly had a lot of commonalities with the way that I live my life, and then so many differences. It was just a wonderful. Well, it's a learning opportunity, right? The only way you can find out really what other people are like is to A, talk to them, or B, go to their world. Get out of your world and go to their world. So that's another thing. Have students write a scene in which the two opposites find out they have a commonality. I have stick to opposing foes in an elevator and find out they both have the same fear. Right? Lock two characters in a room and find out that, and write out that one thing. What's the one thing that the two people who seem to be on opposite worlds, and they have something, they have some common ground. Try another person's life. Habit number 3, right? Go walk in those shoes. yeah, it just trying another person's life, expanding empathy just by having a direct experience of what someone else is going through, right? Before you criticize someone, what are they going through? And listening is huge in terms of empathy, so that we're not right in there with it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, when people are in traumatic situations, we always sort of knee jerk to the, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, is there anything I can do for you? Oh, you must be, oh, you're in such, you know, and sometimes we do that to the point where we don't listen if that's actually what the person wants, right? Maybe they want to laugh, you know, appropriate or not. Maybe they're so sad that they don't want to be told reminded how sad things are. They want to laugh. They want to just joy. So practice listening. Practice active listening in your drama classroom. The active listening, I've talked about that, what active listening is here before. The whole notion that you have a conversation and that one person expresses a point of view, an opinion. The person who is listening has to repeat what the other person said to them before they can respond. Because usually we listen to respond rather listen to hear what the other person is saying, right? So when you do active listening, that the person who is listening has to actually repeat back what the person who is talking says, so that it's very clear that they are listening as opposed to the minds whirling and figuring out what they are going to say. And of course, develop an ambitious imagination. Is that for someone who's going to have empathy, that they are going to use that noggin of theirs and really go far. I am, and I just want to say too, that I am These 6 Habits of Highly Empathetic People. There's coming from The Greater Good, which is the science of a meaningful life. That's the website I'm looking at. Okay, so the 2 exercises, so we're just talking about empathy here today, and it's just about how today, more than ever, might be a really great time to start discovering and exploring empathy in your classroom, in the drama classroom. Who are you working with? How can they find out about each other? How can they step a mile in someone else's shoes? Getting into a character that they normally wouldn't do is a perfect example of stepping a mile in someone else's shoes. Give your students uncomfortable characters. You might want to make sure that your administration knows this, make sure that parents know this, that hey, we're doing an exercise, this is an exercise in empathy. I'm very purposely giving students uncomfortable characters. Don't do something without that it's a little out of the realm of comfort without making sure people know what you're doing first. It's always, cover your back, people. But then explore uncomfortable characters. I'm trying to think of specific. Mamet is an example of someone who creates uncomfortable characters. Go away from musicals. Go away from Neil Simon. We have a play called Stereotype High, which I think has some really great characters who might be a little uncomfortable for actors in the language that they use and the way and where they come from. Stereotype High, that's the one I would suggest of us. Okay, so I got 2 exercises here. They are in the links. The links are in the description, so you can go to the links. You can see the exercise. You can also get a PDF of the exercise. So the first one is called. It's a post-its, positive and negative post-its. This one comes from a great middle school teacher out of Owensboro, Kentucky, Jessica Stafford, and she was doing my play Hoodie, which is all about self looking at yourself and sort of appearance and self-image and what do we sort of see in ourselves. So they did this exercise. So what has to happen, and she did this with her cast, is students write on post-its the negative words they have heard from others about themselves, and the negative words they think of when they look in the mirror. And they're only allowed one word or one phrase per post-it. And the post-its are placed on a large piece of paper hung on the wall. And students then write positive words they've heard from others or think of when they look in the mirror. And those are placed on a large piece of paper. So the negative ones are placed on orange and the positives are placed on blue. And the purpose of the exercise is to gather words for a specific scene in a play about personal perception. But it raises a lot of reactions. And the first thing you'll notice is when you do this is how voluminous the negative words are and how hateful the negative words are, and how the thing that your students will realize when they see the words up on the wall is that they really thought that they were the only ones. That they can see that other people feel the same way that they do. And to acknowledge that other people feel, how the other people feel. You know, and it's a really nice way to establish empathy for others by just realizing how hurtful and hateful some people feel about themselves and how they are treated. And it just sort of kind of opens up a little bit of a window, right? It opens up a window to see what words are repeated and what it's like to see the two words side by side. What is it, the two post-it pages side by side, and what are they surprised about? And then you could also you can further this into personification exercise, where you can have students look at the wall of post-its and pick one negative and one positive one and have them create a character, and or have them create a scene between the negative word and the positive word. Put them in a locked room and have them find out the commonality between the two, right? See, it's the possibilities are endless. And then the second one is a playwriting exercise, and this is that I came across a really fascinating sentence a while ago, which was, they want you to fail so they won't be alone. They want you to fail so they won't be alone. And it doesn't matter who they is. You know, it's anyone who beats you down, right? And anyone who sneers at you. And we automatically shut down, right, when that happens. We automatically shut down when somebody reacts to us so negatively. And it's very easy to react negatively back, isn't it? It's so easy when someone reacts negatively to us to just go on the negative, to go on the defense. And one thing we say around here, and we're not always good at this, we're not always successful, but what we try to say is to think about what's going on in that person's life. To be empathetic, to think about what they're going through. What's going on in that person's life that they had to be so negative today? And 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with you, right? That there's something that's going on. And it's an interesting thing to just keep figuring out that sentence. They want you to fail so they won't be alone, right? That says a lot about that person, more so about that person than about you. So explore that theatrically. You know, write a two-person scene where that something happens, where that negative thing comes flying at you, and you have to respond. Write a scene between a teacher and their best friend. A confrontation right before the teen leaves to go off and do something wonderful, and that the other person, the best friend tells the teen that they're never going to succeed, right? How can you work in that sentence? They want you to fail so they won't be alone. How can the teen who's going off react with empathy, right? Fascinating stuff. Wonderful, wonderful things can happen when you start to explore empathy and to get your students thinking. I completely 100% believe that students are capable of having empathy. Now is the time. Now is the time to start exploring empathy, to start working with it. Use these 2 exercises. As I said, the links are in the description. If you have an exercise that you use to teach empathy, please throw it in the comments. It'll be, just share this all around. Let's make 2017 the year where we bring empathy. We bring empathy into the world. Why not? All right. Have a wonderful evening, guys. Talk to you soon.